More crime and punishment tonight in Italy. The murder case against American Amanda Knox may be unraveling. A judge today rejected the prosecution's request for new DNA testing. A welcome victory for the former college student as she is fighting her conviction for killing her British roommate, Meredith Kircher. Knox and her ex-boyfriend, Raphael Sollecito, were found guilty in 2009, 2 years after Kircher's partially clad body was discovered in the house they shared in Perugia. But DNA evidence used in the original trial has since been called into question, and without the ability to retest, prosecutors are left with little tying Knox to the crime. So how was she convicted in the first place? That's really a good question to ask. Critics say it was a badly handled investigation by a prosecutor who rushed to judgment. His name is Giuliano Manini. Earlier this year, Drew Griffin of CNN's Special Investigations Unit traveled to Perugia for a rare interview with Manini, one that quickly revealed the weakness of his case and the mistaken arrest of Amanda Knox's boss, a guy named Patrick Lumumba, even though he was working at his own bar the night of the murder. Here's Drew's report.
Police apparently didn't bother to check the facts about Lumumba. They immediately arrested Amanda Knox, Raphael Sollecito, and Patrick Lumumba for the murder of Meredith Kircher. Manini and police announcing to the public, case solved. Giuliano Manini admitted to us, even without any evidence, he knew almost the moment he arrived and laid eyes on Amanda Knox and Raphael Sollecito, they were involved in the murder.
Prior to the forensic investigation, prior to everything really, your intuition or your detective knowledge led you to Amanda Knox and Raphael Sollecito.
After the first few weeks, we were convinced because of the behavior of the two people, and especially Amanda, that they were both involved in the crime.
But almost immediately after the arrests, Manini had a problem. The third suspect, Patrick Lumumba, had an airtight alibi. He was in his bar that night. He could not have been involved. Then the actual forensic tests came back.
When I looked at it, I was horrified.
Greg Hampinkian is a forensic biologist at Boise State University and director of Idaho's Innocence Project. He also is working with the Knox defense team. He says Italian investigators did a good job processing the crime scene, collected excellent evidence, but clung to shakier evidence that proved their theory. A classic error, says Hampinkian, a prosecutor who trusted his gut feeling instead of the science that at that time was pointing to another suspect.
When the DNA is finally processed, it's not any of their suspects. So what do? I mean, what would you do? You let them go.
As Patrick Lumumba was being released from jail, investigators analyzing the bloody evidence left at the crime scene found an entirely new suspect. His name, Rudy Gaudet, a known petty criminal from the Ivory Coast who fled to Germany shortly after the murder. It turns out Gaudet's handprint, made in Meredith Kircher's own blood, was found in the victim's room. Gaudet's DNA found inside the victim's body in her vagina. His DNA on her clothing, on her purse. His feces even found on used toilet paper left near an unflushed toilet down the hall.
Knowing all of that, and when he finally got extradited from Germany back down to Italy, we thought, you know, thank God this is over.
It wasn't. Giuliano Manini would stick to his instincts despite the forensic evidence.
I did what I did because I was convinced, given the evidence that had been gathered, that they were responsible. I am absolutely convinced.
Rudy Gaudet, the African drifter, was convicted in the murder of Meredith Kircher, and Gaudet also fingered Raphael Sollecito and Amanda Knox as his accomplices, even though he never met Sollecito and barely knew Knox. Closing arguments for the appeals case are going to be held at the end of this month, and Amanda Knox's family is very, very hopeful.